Hiya, another Marky-mark video. I can't seem to stay away for the minute. I've got a little bit of time to myself at the moment, and one of the things that one person on the YouTube community has asked me is, could I recommend any jazz albums to get them on their journey? Now, there's plenty of YouTube videos that talk about top 10 jazz albums to get started for a collection. Everyone talks about Kind of Blue, Miles Davis, or it's Get Gilberto, or it's Jazz Samba. There's tons of stuff out there. So I just thought I'd run through my collection and pick out 20 really great titles that I would be very happy to suggest to anybody who's just starting out collecting jazz, listening to jazz, and getting stuck in. So a little bit different from the normal kind of videos. I've done my top 12. I've done another last minute new vinyl finds video. I've got a bit of a cold, I think. I'm not feeling 100%, so bear with me. But I'm going to run through these really quickly. And if you find them really useful, please leave me a like or a comment. Tell me what you think. It's not what you think. It's probably going to be some surprises here, some that I've not shown before. And it's a mixture of great sound quality, great records that sound really good for audiophile sort of purposes, but also just great quality records, full stop, really. So let's get cracking, okay? So I'm going to swivel this around. Here we go. Okay, there's no particular order with these, but this, I think I featured this before very recently. Nina Simone's "I Put a Spell on You" on the Acoustic Sounds silver label is absolutely spellbindingly good. It's really good. Some great favourites here. Fantastic. The quality of it is just great. I recently did a bit of not an A/B test, but I recently played a modern digital record which sounded quite good. What was it? It was some sort of modern sort of pop type thing, and then I put this on, and you just realise how good this is. Fantastic quality, great gatefold. I'm not going to get it out, but yeah, that's my first great jazz album that I recommend to anybody who likes to get into the sort of vocals side of jazz. Really good. All these are in print, by the way. So secondly, I'm going to just very briefly talk about this one. I have mentioned it before, Jutta Hip with Zoot Sims. Now, Jutta Hip was the first white female to sign up to Blue Note. She was a pianist, a very shy pianist, and she teamed up with Zoot Sims, who is just absolutely phenomenal. This is a great record. It swings really well. I think anybody would like this, to be honest. You've got Zoot Sims on tenor sax, and then Jutta Hip on piano, and really nicely. Came out in 2019, and I think Kevin Gray cut it. Pretty sure he did, but it's a really great record. Swings beautifully, and I have no hesitation to recommend anything from Jutta Hip if you can get hold of it, or Zoot Sims. But this is a fantastic record, great sounding. Okay, Miles Davis. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Miles Davis. I'm very, very sorry. I do like Kind of Blue. I do have the 45 RPM mobile fidelity. It's great, fantastic. But this, for me, is a beautiful, sensitive, laid-back listen. It's really gorgeous in a silent way. There's been lots of reissues of this, and it's just a really, really thoughtful, thought-provoking piece of jazz, which is just so beautiful. I honestly don't think anyone could dislike this, really, just because it's so gentle and thoughtful. It's a beautiful listen. And this is a 2019 reissue on Columbia Records on the Legacy. I think it was fairly cheap. Still an issue, but So I would thoroughly recommend that to somebody who says, look, they like a bit of laid back music and just wants to get into a sort of a jazz. Beautiful front cover as well of him looking up, looking so thoughtful, beautiful. Right, so this was oh my goodness, this was one of the best records of this year that I managed to procure from Pure Pleasure, from the Speaker's Corner reissue. Herbie Hancock's Man Child. My goodness gracious me, this is a fantastic. I think I've mentioned this before and gushed over it, so please forgive me. But in terms of pure, unadulterated funk, this is one of my favourite Herbie Hancock records, which anybody who likes really good quality music, just everything just leaps out at you on this record. It really is just pure funk heaven. We've got the hype sticker there talking about the fact these are from the original analog master tapes, pure analog, pressed at Palace, which is always a good sign. Records that are pressed at Palace I find are absolutely fantastic. It's clean as a whistle from start to finish, and when I play this, it's like fairies jumping around my house and having a lovely time. It's a wonderful listen. So I will be playing that later on. I've got a couple of mates coming around later and want to listen to some jazz, so I'll be putting that on. This was a very recent acquisition, and I'm so glad I mentioned it in the last video actually, that it was on its way, and my goodness, I haven't stopped playing it. It's fantastic. It's a really good listen on the Acoustic Sound series. Oscar Peterson's We Get Requests. I missed out on this when it first came out. This is a 2022 edition. Stunning. Again, very accessible. You could put this on at a dinner party, or you could put this on relaxing, having dinner or whatever, and just some great covers that Oscar Peterson does with his trio, and it's fantastically sounding. It's a lovely, rich, dynamic, airy sound, beautifully recorded, and very happy to put that on. Even my wife likes it, so that's a bonus. I mentioned this. I think this came within my top 12. I think it did. Freddie Hubbard's Straight Life with George Benson, Ron Carter, the lovely Jack DeJohnette, Herbie Hancock, of course, Joe Henderson, Richard Pablo Landrum, again from Pure Pleasure. Again, this is just funky as hell. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's brilliant. Mr. Clean, I think, is a track on it. I'm going to get it out because I can't remember if that's the correct. It is Mr. Clean on side 2. Oh my goodness, it's a fabulous listen. If you don't like this, then your heart's not beating. I mean, it starts off with this frenetic, crazy trumpet from Freddie, which I think probably some people think, oh Jesus, what's this? I can't have this. It's too avant-garde-ish. But then it just kicks in with this beautiful, funky track. So one of my favourites, this actually. I really like this one. As you can tell, I'm very excited. So I would happily recommend this to anybody who wants to get into some nice, accessible jazz. Lou Donaldson's Mr. Shingling. This was raved about when it came out, reissued in 2019, I think. Or was it 2020? 2019. And there's so many drum rolls and drum breaks that you recognise that that have been used by other artists, from rap artists, the Beastie Boys, I think. I can't think of any others that have come off, but you will recognise loads of good riffs and drum rolls that have been pinched from this album. It's a stunning recording. It's clean as a whistle from start to finish. It's one of my favourite Lou Donaldsons. Lovely record all round, basically. And I just absolutely love it. Fantastic. Well worth a look and a listen. Lou Donaldson's Alligator Boogaloo. Look at that cover. It's just represents that kind of 60s look. That's so stunning. This is on the Blue Note 80 series, which can be a bit hit and miss. I think they're a bit better than the 75 series. But there's some great stuff on this. It's really good. One Cylinder is my favourite. It's just this gorgeous melodic, hypnotizing piece of jazz that is just sucks you straight in. Fantastic. Really recommend that. One of the first albums that got me into jazz is this one, Art Blakey's Indestructible. This is a reissue from 2019, I think. And again, I just can't say enough about this album. It's just the drums and just the energy and the there's a lot of just stuff going on there, and just there's the shrill of Lee Morgan's trumpet when it comes in on that first track, the Egyptian. It's just absolutely glorious. You just feel like you want to move to this. It's one of my most favourite jazz albums. Definitely my most favourite Art Blakey album. I mean, it's got the lovely Lee Morgan, Wayne Shorter, Cedar Walton, who I absolutely adore, Art Blakey. If somebody wanted some real lively, good, accessible bit of jazz, and this is just, look at that front cover. It's just stunning. I just absolutely love it. This one I picked up, I think last year. Dexter Gordon's One Flight Up, Tone Poet, gatefold. He was a big, tall chap, was Dexter Gordon. I think he was like 6.5 foot tall. He was a huge chap, and he was one of the. He was a good pal, I think, with John Coltrane, saxophone player. And this is fantastic, really good. This is fun. I mean, the first track takes up the whole side of side A, Tanya, which is this wonderful, foreboding and a real melodic track that's like full of anticipation. You're just thinking, when's this going to drop? It just goes on, and it's just a great listen. I love that first track. And then you've got Cop in the Haven, Darn the Dream. You've got Donald Byrd on trumpet, which is always a good sign. Kenny Drew on piano, and Art Taylor on drums, and Niels Henning Orsted Peterson on bass. Great listen. Really, really enjoyed that. Fantastic. I'm going to move on to this. One of my favourite tone poets of all time. Very underrated in my opinion. I've showed this before, but this is Lee Morgan's The Raja, and it's just lovely. It's a really good listen. I'd certainly recommend this to anybody who just wants to get into jazz. A Pilgrim's Funny Farm is how it starts off, with the Raja on side A. It's a fantastic listen. I just really like the melody. There's a lot of really good, feel good jazz, and the drumming's fantastic. That lovely snare and bass mix. There's some great instrumentation, and it's one of my favorite albums. I put this on and I just absolutely love it. This is from 2020, and give it a listen. Fantastic. Again, Lee Morgan. I would be very happy to recommend this to somebody who just loves that swing, that toe tapping, swinging feeling. Cornbread gives you this in spades. Lee Morgan, Jackie McLean, Hank Mobley, Herbie Hancock again. He seems to crop up a lot. Larry Ridley and Billy Higgins. And this is just, it's just stunning. It's just the riffs. Everything about this album is just spot on for me. It just draws you in, and if you don't move to this album while you're listening to it, and then I don't know what would, to be honest. It's fantastic. So Cornbread. What year is this? I think 1967. 1967. Hard to get hold of this, unfortunately. Now I don't know if it's still in print, but it's hard to get hold of. But if you can get it on CD or whatever, just get hold of it and listen to it. Now, I couldn't do a top 20 and not mention Bill Evans, so I had to just throw this in. I do like a bit of live jazz, and I think people who want to make a transition to listening to jazz and collecting jazz music must listen to Bill Evans. I mean, unbelievably fantastic. And live music is the way to go. And this was recorded at the Montreal Jazz Festival. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, it was recorded in 1968. We've got Eddie Gomez on bass and Jack DeJohnette on drums. And it's just the most incredible listen. There's so much energy. They're on fire, these guys. And I think for anybody who can listen to, I mean, Nardis comes on side 2. Nardis was a track that everyone thinks it's Bill Evans that wrote it, and he commandeered it for many of his outings. It was actually a Miles Davis track, Nardis, but it's just incredible. For me, this version of Nardis is at the right speed, the right pace, and the call and reply from Eddie Gomez and Jack DeJohnette is just, for me, this is a absolute standout classic for me of Bill Evans. And for most people, I would say it's very accessible. I think people who want to listen to a live jazz recording from that period, this has to be a classic. This is the, I think it's at 45 RPM. I should know that. I think it is 45 RPM. Analog Productions, printed at QRP. But, I mean, it's just gives me the goosebumps every time I listen to this, to be honest. Right, moving quickly on. I really like this. And I would certainly recommend it for anybody who wants, again, some laid-back, really good laid-back, decent jazz to sort of get their ear into it. And it's Sonny Rollins on Impulse. And I love describing this because the way it starts off with Sonny on very laid back on the sax, it's like a bee dancing around a flower. It's just this, and it just draws you in. I mean, it's the most incredibly delightful listen. Stunning recording, beautiful record on the Acoustic Sounds silver label. And it's been, I think it's been done by, I want to say Bernie Grunman. I think Bernie did this one. Or was it Ryan K. Smith? Anyway, it's just a really lovely sax. There's no harshness to this whatsoever. It's just a great listen. Very gentle sax. Nicely laid out. Just great. This was a surprise. Dial S for Sonny on the Blue Note Classic series. I've mentioned this several videos ago, and this came out, I think it was this year, 2022, and this is just fantastic. We've got some great characters on this: Art Farmer on trumpet, Curtis Fuller on trombone, Hank Mobley on tenor sax, Sonny Clark, of course, on piano, and this just sucks you in. You can't not move to this album, sticking it on. It's just lovely, really good, nice grooves, nice riffs, just stunning. One of my favorite on the classic series. I've mentioned that before, but it's fine. Now, I picked up this last year. Now, Mingus is a little bit harder and more perhaps a bit more of a challenge to accept and enjoy. But last year they brought out Mingus, which is this. And then they brought out The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. And it was probably praised as one of the best reissues of 2021. It's an absolutely gorgeous listen. And for somebody who kind of wants, I don't know, probably wants a little bit more challenge, they want a bit more theatre in their music, I would say Mingus is probably the best of them. It's described as ethnic folk dance music, and what I would say about Mingus is like it's like a 3-course dinner. You have to kind of go from start to finish with the starter, the main, and then the dessert at the end, because he writes his music a lot like a piece of theatre. It's like you're being taken through certain acts in a sort of Shakespearean play or so, but it's so rewarding. it's a really great listen. I've got a massive respect for Charles Mingus, and the Black Saint and the Sinner Lady is a close second to this. But for me, I like this, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it to somebody who just wants to feel a bit more from their music. They just want to get a bit more out of it, and just this does it in spades. It's not an easy listen straight away. So I would say to somebody, look, have a little dive into that lot there, and then have a little taste of Mingus a bit later on. But in terms of a record, absolutely 10 out of 10, perfect record, beautiful, lovely, clean record. It's stunning gatefold, and everyone should have a little bit of Mingus. I would recommend this. Right, John Coltrane. Now, John Coltrane is, I mean, what can be said? He's an absolute fantastic. I mean, he's the god of jazz saxophone music. He's just absolutely fantastic. And I had to put John Coltrane somewhere. And I think for somebody who's just starting out in jazz, me personally, I would have to recommend Giant Steps, because I just think it's something that you can instantly start getting some enjoyment out of. You don't have to really I mean, Love Supreme's fantastic, but I think that can be quite challenging if you're not used to listening to John Coltrane's style. And his style changes throughout his career. But I think for somebody who wants to just dive straight in, Giant Steps for me is a really good starting point for me anyway. I love the track Namer, which I knew that he wrote, and was, he sort of coined it, said that it was one of his most beautiful pieces that he'd ever written. There it is. This is a really good reissue. I mean, it's Atlantic. It's it's all right. It's pretty good. 2 LP. You got all this bump about it being a deluxe edition, 60 years, 2 LP, all that nonsense. It's actually a really nice listen. Really happy to have it, and I think it's one of my favourite John Coltrane's. So let's have a look at the next one. Now, going back to that kind of live music theme, this is from Speaker's Corner on the Atlantic label, and this is Charles Lloyd, Forest Flower at Monterey. Again, you just feel the crowd, you feel you're actually there. It's just a lovely listen, very laid back, very kind of, it's just very engaging. And I think, again, it's just a nice, lovely listen. It's a beautiful record, lovely and clean. You've got Forest Flower Sunrise, Forest Flower Sunset, Sorcery Song of Her, East of the Sun, and you've got the lovely, Keith Jarrett on piano, Cecil McBee on bass, and Jack DeJohnette on drums. And it's one of my favourite live recordings, actually, this one. You can't go wrong with this. Pour yourself a glass of whiskey or a nice cold beer and just listen to this. It's been beautifully recorded. There's one point, I think, where there's a plane going overhead, but it's fine. It doesn't detract you from the music. You just feel there's this plane going over, and it's just lovely because you're there and enjoying it. And he's having lots of fun with the crowd as well. There's a book where he's sort of having a bit of fun with the crowd. Wonderful. Really happy to share that one. 2 left. This was one that was brought up by another YouTube community contributor, Jazz at the Pawn Shop. And this is really nice. This is great. And I'm not going to try and do it justice by explaining it in too much detail, but it's just really fun. It's a really intimate live recording with just really good feel-good music. It's recorded in Stockholm in 1976. It's just it's really intimate. You can really, there's a lovely sketch there of the recording. Just a really nice listen for anybody who just wants to start getting into jazz and just get a bit more intimate with it. I really like this. It's fun. It's really fun, and it's It's a stunning recording. So I've just seen a spelling mistake there. Look, I always find spelling mistakes with these liner notes, but it's it's a really great listen. Everything's spaced beautifully. The microphones have been placed beautifully, and they've pulled it off. It's one of the classics for. Yeah, I love it. Love Jazz at the Pawn Shop. That's a lovely listen. I might put that on later on tonight, actually. And then lastly, I've mentioned this, I think, in my top 12. I'm not going to go on about it, but I will. From Pure Pleasure, it's Lee Konitz, who I love. Lee Konitz, Inside Hi-Fi on the Atlantic label. And I just don't think anyone could hate that, really, coming into listening to jazz and enjoying it. So, yeah, it's on Pure Pleasure. It's available. It's reasonable, and it just swings really well for me. It's just a really gorgeous listen, and I love Lee Konitz. It's so sad that he passed away very recently. So that's 26 minutes. I'm done. I've had enough. Thank you for listening. If you've reached the end point, let me know if you've got any suggestions for jazz albums, ones that I've missed. Some comments would be fantastic. But take care of yourselves. See you again very soon. Bye.